In the wilderness beneath the shadow of Mount Sinai, a nation stood trembling before a holy God. They had been delivered from slavery, carried through the sea, fed by heaven, but freedom required structure. Redemption required order. A rescued people needed justice. And so the Lord spoke. Not merely commands about worship, not merely laws about sacrifice, but laws about harm, laws about loss, laws about what must be done when one person wrongs another. Because biblical justice was never satisfied with apology alone. It demanded restitution. In Exodus, the command was clear. If a man stole an ox, he must repay 5 oxen. If he stole a sheep, he must repay 4 sheep. If property was damaged, repayment was required. If trust was violated, compensation followed. If loss was inflicted, restoration was measured. The law did not allow injustice to evaporate into sentiment. It required repayment. Restitution was not revenge. It was not cruelty. It was not humiliation. It was accountability made visible. The offender did not merely confess, he compensated. The injured did not merely forgive, he was repaid. Justice in Israel was not abstract, it was economic, tangible, weighty, measurable in livestock, grain, silver, and land. If a thief could not repay, he worked until the debt was satisfied. The wrong did not disappear because the guilty felt remorse. The wrong remained until balance was restored. In Leviticus, the principle deepened. If a man deceived his neighbor in a matter of deposit or robbed him or oppressed him, he must restore what he took and add 1/5 more. Why? Because sin costs more than it appears to cost. Restitution acknowledged that wrongdoing leaves residue, trust is fractured, stability is shaken, time is lost, peace is disturbed. The added fifth declared, harm ripples outward. And righteousness requires more than the bare minimum. Restitution was woven into the fabric of covenant life. Judges sat at city gates to hear disputes. Elders weighed evidence. Silver changed hands. Livestock was transferred. Fields were restored. Communities stabilized. The law restrained vengeance by requiring measured repayment. It restrained apathy by demanding responsibility. In Israel, forgiveness did not cancel consequences. It completed them.
Here is the silver in full repayment. I accept it. The debt is settled. Justice is done. Go in peace.
Years later, a king would sit upon a throne in Jerusalem. A warrior, a poet, a shepherd turned monarch, David, king of Israel. But even kings were not exempt from covenant law. When David sinned, when he took what was not his and destroyed what he could not return, the prophet Nathan entered the palace. Nathan did not begin with accusation. He began with a story. There were 2 men in a city, one rich, one poor. The rich man had many flocks and herds. The poor man had nothing but one little ewe lamb, which he loved like a daughter. When a traveler came, the rich man spared his own flock and took the poor man's lamb instead. David burned with anger. As the Lord lives, he declared, the man who has done this deserves to die.
The man shall restore the lamb
fourfold. David reached instinctively for the law of Exodus. Fourfold repayment for a stolen sheep. Before he knew it, the king had pronounced judgment upon himself. You are the man, Nathan said. The weight of restitution fell not only upon property, but upon conscience. David's sin could not be reversed. A life could not be restored. Some losses cannot be repaid with silver or livestock. And yet the principle stood. Sin demands reckoning, even when the restitution required is beyond human ability. Centuries passed. Jericho thrived under Roman taxation. Palm trees swayed above limestone streets. Merchants traded spices and grain. And among them lived a man named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector, wealthy, powerful, despised. His riches were not inherited, they were extracted. Tax collectors inflated assessments. They kept the surplus. They thrived on leverage and intimidation. But one day, Jesus of Nazareth entered Jericho. And Zacchaeus climbed a sycamore tree. Short in stature, elevated by desperation. When Jesus called him down and entered his house, murmurs filled the city. Why would a righteous teacher dine with a sinner? Because conviction was coming. And conviction produces restitution. Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold. Fourfold. Again, the language of Exodus. Again, the standard of covenant law. But this time not compelled by a judge, not demanded by a court, not extracted by threat. Voluntary. Zacchaeus did not negotiate percentages. He did not minimize his guilt. He did not redefine his actions. He did not say, "I'm sorry if anyone felt harmed." He named it fraud, and he repaid it 4 times over. This is biblical restitution, not vague remorse, not internal regret, not symbolic gestures. Concrete repayment, measured accountability, material correction. The gospel did not abolish restitution. It fulfilled its spirit. Where the law required repayment, grace empowered it. Where guilt paralyzed, mercy activated responsibility. Jesus did not tell Zacchaeus, "No need to repay." He declared, "Today salvation has come to this house." Salvation did not replace restitution. It produced it. The pattern is unmistakable. Sin disrupts. Justice requires repayment. Repentance demonstrates itself in restitution. But there is a deeper layer still. What of sins that cannot be repaid? What of bloodshed, betrayal, lifetimes fractured beyond repair? The law exposed debt, but humanity could not settle every account. And so the story of restitution moves beyond livestock and silver. It moves toward the cross. The cross stands alone against the dimming sky, rough timber dark against fatting light, planted in ancient soil as the wind moves softly across the hill. For a long moment nothing happens, and yet everything is being said. That wood reminds us that justice is not imaginary, that wrong does not simply dissolve with time, that mercy was never careless. The hill is quiet, but it carries the weight of cost paid, not ignored. And from that stillness, the world begins to move again. The landscape shifts. Stone hills give way to highways. Sand becomes pavement. The horizon fills with steel and glass as a modern city rises into view. Though centuries have passed, the law of restitution remains unchanged, steady across time.